Okay, so I pretty much cut most of the stuff out, but I thought I'd go ahead and show you how I'm cutting out the straps. I got 4 of them laid out here. I don't know if you can see that. But there's a light scratch on them. This is a little spiky tool called a scratch owl. So I got my cardboard template. Figure out where I want it. Give myself plenty of room so I'm not cutting too close to the other pieces. And then on the top surface of the leather, just scratch out a reference line for me to cut on. And there we go. Now we got our 4 reference lines cut or scratched, and now I can cut it. This here's the knife I'm going to use to cut out the leather. This leather is about 7 to 8 ounce thick. I also have this ceramic rod here that actually broke on me, but I can still use it. And I use this to sharpen the blade. It works really well. This blade dulls very quickly, and when you're cutting this leather, so I have to do this quite often. So that's pretty sharp. Okay, and now we'll just start cutting it out. The trick is to keep the blade straight up and down and not start angling it when you're cutting, otherwise you get a bevel. Some cuts you want to have a bevel, but on this I don't. And then these little corners here are the tricky part, because that's a tight corner. So you want to cut in a little light and then come in the second time a little, pressing a little harder. There we go. Now I can freehand the straight line, or I can use a ruler, metal ruler, which is what I'm going to do here. And I'll just do a preliminary cut there. I didn't go all the way through the leather. It's a little thick. And then now I can come in and finish the final cut. And let's see if I made it all the way through. Almost. Almost made it all the way through. There we go, one strap. You might need to come in and shave this off a bit, kind of clean it up, but one to go. Ended up doing 38 of these. Okay, here's another quick example of how I'm using my templates and getting the leather prepped. The first thing you need to do is wipe down the leather, get it wet, just sponge in some water, and get it to soak in nice and evenly. Let that soak in. There we go. Alright, so Doesn't need to be drenched, just a little wet. Make sure I covered it all. Here's my template. Yeah, looks like I got it all. So cover enough area. We'll let that sit for a bit. So one thing we don't want it to do is really saturate the leather and make it just soaked. We just want to moisten it so that it takes an impression. So once you sponge it, you just want to kind of let it sit a little bit, let it air dry a bit. You get used to it knowing the color that you're looking for. I'll take my template, maximize the leather here best I can so I don't waste it. That looks pretty good. And we'll tape it in place. And then I'll use my stylus here. They come in different type of tips. I'm using a fine ball tip. So it's just a little round steel ball. And then I just come in and trace the whole thing. Right over the template. Now this paper I have here, I ran out of the vellum that was that kind of a plastic vellum. It worked really well, and this one is actually more paper-based vellum, and the moisture and the pressure tends to start to tear it sometimes, so be aware of that. And now I'm doing the inside of the design. So this is a reference line I'm going to be using for when I'm going to carve and stamp the design into the leather. We'll lift it up, make sure I got everything. Just about. And there's our reference lines. Now we just need to let that dry a little bit and then we'll cut it. Okay, so now it's time to cut it out. This leather here is about 10 to 11 ounce thick. We'll just follow our reference lines. I'm also cutting outside the mark just so I have a little extra material. So I'm cutting on the outside of my reference line. With this thicker leather, you typically do have to make 2 cuts to get through it. And there we go. Piece is finished. And then I'll use these reference lines to stamp inside of. So here we have all the leather cut out and the pattern transferred onto the leather. Basically what I did was I had to wet the leather first, then lay my pattern on top of it, tape it down, and then trace it with the stylus, and then cut each piece out. So we'll just pan across so you can get an idea of all the different pieces that we have. I ended up using, I bought, well, it's cowhide, Vegetan cowhide, and it was not the premium pieces of leather. I wanted some markings, some skin stretching and whatnot, because I want to have a distressed outfit, a distressed look for the outfit. But I used up almost 2 full sides of cowhide. So quite a lot of leather. And then all the different individual strap pieces that had to be cut. Different sizes, small, medium, large, the belt. So at this point, everything's cut. My design's been transferred. And now I just need to go in and start carving and stamping the pattern into the leather. As far as time it took to do this portion of the project, I would estimate 8 to 9 hours.